Welcome to English class. Today's lesson are models of obligation and prohibition. Last time, we had discussed about the real existence of knights in the Middle Ages. And it is not secret to us that every knight speaks and acts with their utmost gentleness and courtesy, given that they have a great obligation to the society they belong in. One way to express one's obligation is through the use of models. But do you know what is a model? A model is a helping verb that signify intention or feeling of the speaker. They denote likelihood, permission, ability, possibility, suggestion, prohibition, advice, order, or request. It is always followed by a verb in its base form. And always remember that every sentence has a main verb. Therefore, even if we don't have a helping verb just like models, a sentence is still in its complete form. You may take a look at this example. We have the first sentence, I must go home. I is the subject, go is the main verb, and home is an object. I go home is a complete sentence, plus the helping verb or modal must. Here is our second example. You must visit us. You is the subject, visit is the main verb, while us is an object. You visit us is still a complete sentence, plus the helping verb or modal must. What had you noticed? You may observe that even if without the use of models, a sentence still has a complete thought. So what do you think is the reason why we still need to use this helping verbs called modals? Actually, it is important because it gives a special effect that helps us when speaking about ability, making requests and offers, asking permission, and more. Now, we will be focusing on models of obligation and prohibition. What is the difference between models of obligation and models of prohibition? Under models of obligation, we have to, need to, must, and should. While in models of prohibition, the word not is being added. Cannot, must not, should not. Models of obligation is used to denote that there is a sense of duty demanded by conscience, gratitude, or custom. First examples are have to or need to. What is the difference? When we say need to, this is expressed as something is a requirement in order to do something else. While have to is used if you wanted to tell something you are obligated to do regardless of any further goals. Need to, ibig sabihin, meron ka bang ibang trabaho or duty na maaapektuhan? Sa have to naman, wala ka ng choice kundi gawin ang isang bagay. Example, under have to, I have to turn off all the lights before I leave. The speaker here is saying that he has no choice but to turn off the lights, and he is the only one who is obliged to do so. Another example under have to is, you have to open your camera during online classes. Therefore, in this example, it is stated that one's duty is to turn on his or her camera during his or her online classes. Next is need to. For example, I want to go to France, so I need to get the passport. If the speaker here won't have his passport, another thing will be affected, and that will be he won't be able to go to France. Second example, I need to review so I'll get higher grades. If the speaker here won't review, he might get a not so good grade. Moving on to another modals. We have here must and should. What is the difference between these two and when to use each? Let's start first with must. Must is something similar to have to. It is used to express that there is a strong obligation one must do, while should is similar to ought to. It is used if there is a certain suggestion. The word must is used if something is a requirement to do, while the word should is used in giving an advice to someone. Let's have our example using the word must. First example, you must abide by the law. When we say law, it is something that we are required to follow. Second example, you must arrive on time, otherwise we will leave without you. The speaker is setting some rules in this statement. Therefore, the receiver of this message must follow his rules. Next is an example under should, or using the word should. First example, you should visit us more often. We hardly ever see you nowadays. Second example, you should try to get some sleep. It is very late and you have a lot of work to do tomorrow. These examples are merely a suggestion or advice to someone else, right? Next in line are models of prohibition. Under that, first one is cannot. But what do you think is the right one? Cannot without a space or cannot with a space? What do you think? So to answer the question, let us now differentiate the two. Cannot without space and cannot with a space. Cannot without a space is commonly used in academic writings or formal writings. It means you aren't able to do something. While cannot with a space is usually written before the phrase not only but also. To visualize more, let's have our example using cannot without a space. We cannot allow these obstacles to slow us down. Can you give me your own example now using this word? How about this one? Cannot with a space. So here is our example. The company's new product can not only reduce emissions, but also drop some of the existing greenhouse gases. You may notice that there is the word only and the phrase but also. Up next is the model of prohibition, which is must not. What is this model? It is used if there is something that is not permitted or not allowed. The model must not is used to indicate that something is forbidden. In Tagalog, ipinagbabawal. Let's now have our example using must not. Students must not copy their work from the internet. It's illegal. When you are using the word must not, you are also indicating that a consequence might happen if not followed. Lastly, we will be having should not under models of prohibition. We are using should not if you are not recommending someone to do something, or you are not advising someone to do something. Especially if there will be a bad effect on that person later on. Let's now have our example using should not in a sentence. I should not have stayed awake so late last night. Another example, I should not have shouted at my mom. Well, who won't feel bad if that happens, right? Shouting at your moms? Now, you may observe that some of the models we had discussed in this video has the word not. So here comes the process construction. What is construction? A construction is a shortened form of a word or group of words that omits certain letters or sounds. Basically, an apostrophe is being used to do this process, construction. To obtain clarity, let's take a look at these examples. First, cannot into can't. Should not into shouldn't. And must not into mustn't. Oops! Don't forget the trivia of the day!